Scott Galloway defines financial independence as having a passive income that's greater than your burn. In this video, I just want to break that down and share with you what I've realised financial independence actually means for me. In most of the videos on this channel, I've been talking about retiring next year at 55, retiring early and taking my pension. But I've been watching a couple of videos and podcasts recently that have just made me think that I might be using the wrong terminology here. I've said retirement because I'm looking at accessing my private pension when I'm 55 next year. I'm just within the dates allowed to do it, luckily, being born in 71. But I won't be taking or eligible for a state pension until at least I'm 67, maybe longer than that. So I've been looking at the phrasing really, and retirement kind of sounds like the end of something. Financial independence sounds like the beginning of something, and I think that's more really about what we're at is creating financial independence in our lives. Now, as Scott Galloway mentioned, having a passive income that's greater than your burn, greater than what the money that you're burning each month, and passive income being having an income that's regardless of whether or not you show up to work. There's a website called MoneyFit which has a really good description of what financial freedom means, and I just wanted to read that out. Financial freedom means you have enough financial resources to pay for your living expenses and allow you to afford many of your life goals without having to work or otherwise commit any of your time efforts to generating money. And these resources might include one or both of the following: independent income or abundant assets. I suppose like a personal pension, like I'm going to have, that we're drawing down on. So I would fall into that category, abundant assets. But we are looking at, and have been looking at over the last, 30 years, ways of generating independent income, passive income. It always used to be called residual income to me. When I first came across the terminology, and I've mentioned this in a video before, we came across a multi-level marketing scheme called Amway, with a group, like a spin-off from that, called International Business Systems, or IBS. And we went to functions, we read countless books and all that kind of thing, and all the stuff that we absorbed during the 4 years that we were doing that, and we never really made any money doing it. We did make money in a different MLM scheme, but we just never pursued it. We had a child, and things got in the way, and we stopped doing it. But anyway, from the first meeting that I had, they talked about financial freedom. I didn't know what financial freedom was, and they were talking about a residual income, doing the work once and it stays done. So if you imagine an author writes a book, and then those books sell for years, they've already done the work, they don't have to do anything else, and those books just get produced by whatever management company you've got. People come in and keep buying those books over the years, and that's a residual income, royalties if you like. Another example might be perhaps a YouTuber, for instance, makes a video that does particularly well. They've done the video, they've put it up on YouTube, the platform then carries on, promoting that video, and if they're monetized, it would earn them a certain amount of money, and they only have to do the work once, essentially. So then that would keep paying them, a residual income. So for me next year, for instance, I mentioned on a previous video that I'd written a book about giving up alcohol, and people laughed at me because, as they do, because I said that it earns me £2 to £4 a month on Amazon Kindle. It's not a lot. The book wasn't particularly brilliant, but I've done the work once and it stays done, if you know what I mean. So it's still paying me a residual income. Yeah, I'm not going to retire on that. I know that, and people were going, oh, only £2 a month. You're missing the point. Totally missing the point. The point is that it's something that you've done once and you get an ongoing income from. Now, my wife's a writer, so this could be, and she's a very accomplished writer. She has made money in the past from writing. She's written countless novels and short stories, just not really gone down the publishing route yet. But that's something that she could do. She's a much better writer than I am, I'll tell you that. And she knows what she's doing. She's got an MA in creative writing. So that could be something that when we've got more time to ourselves and we're drawing down on our, as they call it, abundant assets, which will be as my available pension pot, will be my private pension pot, which is in a SIP, will be sitting there, we'll be drawing down on that. That will give us some time to then develop maybe some other passive income, which my wife may then do and start publishing her books on Kindle. May not take off, but it also may. So it's worth a go, isn't it? And all we've got to do is try and balance so financial freedom to us will not necessarily mean lavish lifestyles and spending our time on private jets and all that kind of thing. I'm sure I'd love to, but I'm too late in the day to be concerned with all of that. I know that I can live a very enjoyable life with minimal of outgoings. So the idea is, as long as we get our income, which ideally will come from not working, more than our burn, our monthly outgoings, there's two ways we can do that. So we can either increase the passive income, which is what we also plan to do when we put more time to do that, but we'll also be reducing our outgoings. So as long as there's one's greater than the other and the right one's greater than the other one, then we'll be financially independent, won't we? So it's more about financial independence for us than retiring, I realise now. After watching various podcasts and blogs, I realised that actually that's what this is about. We're late in the day. I've been dabbling in various side hustles and all sorts of stuff that would generate potentially a passive income for the last 30 years. But the knowledge accumulated has got me to a point where I know how to set businesses up, and I've been reasonably successful in businesses in the past that have generated residual income. I just haven't continued with them. That's all. We did Amazon FBA. I ended up getting some product made and shipped over from China, for instance, and it worked really, really, really well. But I didn't continue it. We had the COVID issue, which caused a problem with importation. There was various things that were out of my control, and because I wasn't diverse enough, and that's something I'm going to cover in a second. Then all my eggs were in one basket, right? Same as affiliate marketing. I dabbled in affiliate marketing, doing courses online, and I sold quite a lot of these courses, and it was all set up, so it was all automated on email, and I was earning decent money from it. But something happened, and sorry, I think there was a mozzie attacking me. Something happened, and I discontinued it. I can't remember what it even was now. Work probably got in the way because it wasn't enough to fund me full time. I ended up getting distracted and putting more effort into my work. Had I thought about this properly, back in the day, I probably would have put more into I would have put more into savings, more into my pension. They say about 10%, putting 10% aside. All the books I've ever read, put 10% of everything you earn, you pay yourself 10% first. And the church has been advocating this for decades, hundreds of years. Put 10% in tithing, 10% in pay yourself, 10% in tithing, 10% pay yourself, and become, so they've been talking about wealth building and passive income building, and that 10% you pay yourself, you invest properly to give you a passive income in the future, and then you can afford to retire early, etc. That's what, as I say, the church have been going on about that for years. And a lot of these things are only clicking now. When you're in your 20s and 30s, you don't think about retirement because it's, not working, because that's the model that you're trained to follow, and breaking out of it is not accepted. But for young people these days, it is accepted. It's almost starting to become the norm. The gig economy, the 0-hour contracts, all of this sort of thing, a career for life or a job for life, as we were told in the 80s, get a job for life. It's just not a thing anymore. I don't think so anyway. So, again, another thing we were taught with the multi-level marketing was the whole idea of the plan was that you develop lots and lots of different small businesses. So if one of them goes wrong, you've got extra backup. So you're diversifying your portfolio of whatever you're doing. So if you've got one business, have another business. If you've got one investment, have another investment. Have several, many different things that are giving you streams of income, so that if one was to stop, you've still got money coming in. The job mentality of going to work and this is why I went self-employed, because when you're self-employed you've got more room to maneuver if something goes wrong, is how I always figured it. So you can take that time, you can generally earn more in the good times, and then you put that money aside for the bad times, and I've done that over the last 9 years, and it's got us through okay. It's just that I'm having a bit of a downturn right now in the delivery business, but at one time, or when I started doing it 4 or 5 years ago, it was very, very lucrative. I was earning almost as much as I was in the bank for the amount of time I was putting in. But what I found out when I took early redundancy in the bank, because they were shutting branches left, right and centre, and I knew where it was going, they were gradually removing that role, and the role that I was in is now no longer a thing. So they were trying to get rid of it. They were trying to manage people out, really, really stressful time. But it made me realise that if you're in a job, you might be on a really high income and enjoying yourself, and then you've got all these other commitments and outgoings that your job's paying for. If you're made redundant, or your health goes and you have to be medically retired, or which I hear a lot, and the company goes down, company goes bust. Look at Northern Rock. What happened? Those people probably gone into another job in banking, which is it's not the securest, it's not the most secure way of working. So a job for life is not a thing anymore. These companies go and bust left, right and centre, and if you're working for one of those companies and you lose your job, you've just lost everything. Whereas at least where I was self-employed, I had more my eye on other things, and that's what we're looking at going forward. So next year we'll have the money in the bank, we'll be looking at opportunities. I'll be looking at opportunities to make money from lots of different sources, so that we can increase that passive income and make it even more greater than our burn, than our outgoings. And that's the idea. Passive income that is diverse as possible is going to be the key to our financial independence going forward. And as Scott Galloway said, great phrase, diversification is your Kevlar. He mentioned that because he said that he had all of his investments and everything into one business. He's been wealthy 3 times. He's lost his wealth twice, and then he's now gained it all back. That takes some nous, to be able to do that. But he invested everything into one of his businesses, or his main business, and ended up losing. He was worth 10 million one day, and then he owed 3 million the next day when it all collapsed, because of what I think it might have been the financial collapse in 2008. And he wasn't diverse enough, so that's why he now says diversification is your Kevlar, and I think that's really really good advice. As I've said before, I'm not here to advise. I'm just talking about my thoughts about what we're doing next year, which we are doing, and it's going to happen. And there's lots of different ways it could happen. There really is. There's so many different things on the table. But the idea now is, rather than retiring, I think I'm going to start calling it financial independence. That's what we're working to, or financial freedom, which is where I don't have to show up for work to get an income. So I've got an income coming in from whatever, income from investments, interest, and maybe business ideas, writing, that kind of stuff. Now, I need to say a massive thank you to Defeffel Blog for your super thanks from the last video. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your ongoing support. I really do. And a big thank you to Caffeine Monster as well for your super thanks. Thank you so much. And you're one of those viewers that has done this and has no regrets, which I'm hearing a lot of. So that's fantastic to hear. So thanks a lot. And also a huge thank you to Superb Diamond Range for your £10 super thanks. Massive appreciation for that. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're enjoying the channel too. So look, if you're thinking about retiring early, or you're even thinking about generating financial independence or financial freedom, and you're wondering where our journey is going to end up, and you want to follow our trials and tribulations, any mistakes that you can probably learn from, I'm sure there'll be plenty of them, then do subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, I'd like to thank everybody who has subscribed too, as a result of watching the last couple of videos, and thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video soon.